Hey friends, happy Saturday. Hope everyone's had a great week so far. Come on up, say hi.
Good
Hey
morning.
there. Good
Hey,
morning.
what's up, friends?
Hey, no futuristic.
What's up?
Oh, just another day in the Gotchiverse.
Another beautiful day in the Gotchiverse paradise.
Yeah. How's your channeling and your Friday night?
It's been good. The channeling's been really good. I've just been like nerding out with like the diamond contract and trying to like interact with it in all these different ways. I'm starting to get the hang of it, so it's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I think I saw your message earlier. I haven't responded to it, but honestly, the going through Looper is quite difficult. Probably the easiest way would be to just learn a little bit of basic JavaScript and use Ethers JS. Basically, run a script to do what you're trying to do. Because Looper dev can be pretty intimidating, and sometimes it doesn't work.
Yeah, I've gotten it to work. It's just more like making sure not to fat finger anything. That's the big thing. And then like more batch features. So I've been talking with other peeps, and they were like, Gelato will do a lot of the stuff that I can, like the batching and automation, some of the stuff. So I'm starting to look into that just for, if I set up the rentals correctly for the person I'm renting for, then it's easy to just batch, claim, and end and relist. But the rental has to be the correct thing. Yesterday I tried doing that, and I accidentally put because I know that the input for Ghost in this is in like way, so you have to put like a crazy 300. So I did that twice yesterday where I messed up and I put like rentals for like 1 to like E15th like decimal, like 15 zeros and a 1 for 1 hour rental. So
Yeah. You got to do. It's basically 1 times 10 up to the 18th power. That's one way. What I usually do if if you're using a script, you can just do you can use Ethers. But what I usually do is I just go into like Word or like a spreadsheet, and I'll just do a formula 1 times power 10 to the 18th. That'll give you the correct number.
okay, yeah, because I fiddled around with it a little bit, and now I just have it in in a note, like it's like whatever that number is, I just have to adjust it. Like so, if I'm doing rentals now 2 hours for 0.26 ghost, so that's like 26 15 zeros or something like that. So it's just have to adjust those first two numbers as long as I keep the number of zeros, the same. That should be fine.
Yeah, here's another good tool. It's called Eath Converter. I use this one occasionally as well. So you just type in for ether would be the amount of ghosts that you want to spin. So like one, you could do 1 and then you want to grab the way field. That's also really helpful. So yeah, like
You said the
especially
first one
for
was Ether.js, right?
yeah, that's the library, Ethers JS. That's a JavaScript library that's like most apps use that for their like all their function calls.
Okay, cool. Yeah, this is it's all very interesting. A lot of stuff to learn, which is always my thing. I love to learn, so
Yeah.
this is really good.
Yeah, that's cool that you can use yeah, because gelato is it still like is it point 0.1 Matic per automated call now?
Well, I
Or how
haven't
do they
actually
charge for
used
that?
gelato yet. I have had friends tell me about it, so I've looked into it, and I've started to see like looking at like the specifics of like how it interacts with the Aavegotchi diamond contract. Like I've been able to pull up certain functions, but I haven't actually tried running a test yet because I'm still just getting my head around it.
Cool.
Hey, everyone. Yeah, gelato's always a bit more expensive than normal transactions. Like they've done it intentionally to be at the peak of the price. Rather, well, I usually try and do 30.1 or something like that, so I can. And then if they don't go through within a few seconds, then bump them up from there. But they've gone the other end just so their transactions go through time based.
Do they charge a service fee?
I'm not actually sure. I know I don't think so off the top of my head, but it's just always expensive. So maybe they do, and it's just in there and it's all wrapped up. But I mean, it's on Matic. It's cheap as anyway, relatively. And if it's automation, then hey, what's our time worth?
It's worth it, trust me. As I sit here
Yeah.
and manually list, like I have someone is letting me operate, like lend operate for like 26 of their gotchis. So I'm taking all of the rentals down from the night and now putting them all up one by one. Good thing that once the settings are into Looper Dev, it's easy. And I just have to type in the new token ID number. And then after this, I'll be able to batch, claim, end, and relist all of these for the rest of the day until right before channeling, where I'll bring it down. But like that automation would be like I'm doing it all manually, and I'm like I could do this. I'm a robot, and then I'm like, no, I'm not a robot. What am I doing? Like,
Yeah, you got to work smart. That's what devs are actually the laziest people in the world because we just try to automate everything we can.
Yeah, the best devs are the laziest.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
the thing
10x
that's
dev
the
is
thing
the
that
laziest person you'll ever see.
well, I'll tell you, I was at the bar last night, and like I have like it's become like because I'm doing so much work, I'm not really there drinking anymore. I'm just on my laptop, and people keep coming over and talking to me. So I had a friend who's like, "Oh, this guy's a dev. You guys should talk." And I'm like, "I can't talk right now. I'm like setting up all these rentals through Looper Dev." And the guy sat down anyway. And then he's like, the first strike against him was that he was developing R bots for Terra, like on the Cosmos network. So he's like,
Oh,
that's pretty much dead for me right now. So he's trying to upsell me on like his friend creating a UI to interact with the contract so that I can do this all very easily. And I was explaining how we already have members in the community who have done that, so I don't really need that from like a third party, you know. But is I ended up fat fingering a couple rentals because this guy was like in my ear talking to me, and I'm like, yeah, I need to leave me alone. I'm trying to put these like rentals in.
these gotchis need to get borrowed.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Uh,
That's pretty cool though, but we were talking last night about some services that could come out of this, right? Like people using this, like figuring out Looper and managing collections of gotchis for people. That could be a hustle, another grind.
yeah, I think
yeah,
that'd
one
be really
size
neat.
fits all. One size fits all doesn't seem to be uh, workable as the complexity of the game increases.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be a lot of different strategies and tools. If anyone's going to make a bot to auto confirm the upgrades for a fee, that would be kind of cool as well. You could probably use Gelato for that or run a bot.
Well,
So you could
let me
have
ask,
especially once we have lots of harvesters and reservoirs coming out.
you only need to auto confirm if you didn't use glitter, correct? Because when I use glitter, it seems to like I just have to go back
Yeah.
into the build mode and wait like a minute, and then it pops back
Yeah,
up.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, glitter, if you use glitter, it's going to confirm automatically. But if you don't want to use glitter, you just let it go for a while.
Yeah, I've destroyed millions and millions of glitter this week. It felt so good and bad at the same time.
See how much has been burned so far. I saw someone posted it was like 100 million glitter already or something.
That's crazy. I know there's a one friend, I think his name is Ayuasa, who's like showing, he did a screenshot on Twitter
Yeah.
of his block rewards for the glitter, and he's earning like 238 glitter per block. And I thought I was like, I thought I was a big boy earning like 1.14 glitter per block. I was like, yeah, we're doing it. And then, he posted that thing and I'm like, I don't, what am I? Like, just amazing that people can like stake and earn that much.
I think he's the first one in the Gotchiverse. I could be wrong, but I think he's the first one with the level 9 golden altar on his parcel.
Yep.
Are the animations at that level like more advanced? Because I have one of my clients that I'm like basically farming his land. He has a level 6 and it's beautiful. So I can't imagine what the level 9 like looks like when it's like firing off and doing its thing.
Yeah, I think the animation is definitely a little bit more beautiful for the level 9. It's like the fire, when you're channeling, the fire will kind of come out of it. Looks pretty neat.
Are you on Lens Protocol now, Dan? I think I've seen your profile.
I
There's a
am.
Gotchi
Yeah.
Gang group, isn't there?
Yeah, so we got the Gotchi Gang group set up. I personally have it. I don't really use social media that much outside of like Twitter, just for like some occasional shit posts. So I'm probably not like their main user, but always cool to have more social options.
Is it open enrollment now for Lens Protocol? Because I remember there was a sign up period, like a beta, but I couldn't get into it to claim my name.
So apparently they added some gotchis, and I think Frank from our team fetched a bunch of gotchi owner addresses. I'm not sure when he got that, and I'm not sure if he got all of them. So that's part of the confusion, I think. And I don't think he included parcel owners, because I think he just included the gotchi owners. There's probably a lot of missing addresses. And yeah, being in the vault probably didn't help at all. If you're in the vault, you probably weren't counted, because you would not show up as a gotchi owner from our subgraph. Also, if you had your gotchi lent out, you might not have shown up. There's a lot of ifs. I don't think it was really done very, very carefully to make sure every single gotchi was accounted for. So probably need to do a round 2 with them.
So it's worth giving a shot then, I guess you're saying, and see if we're registered.
Yeah, you can go to the claim page. They're definitely gaining traction. I'm a little worried. They're number 5 on the Polygon scan right now, and growing quickly. So they're probably going to be the number 1 DApp on Polygon soon. But like their growth, if it gets exponential, it's gonna be bad for the chain. It's gonna really, literally everything is on chain, so it's gonna be rough. I wish they'd done it on a supernet, because it's that kind of exponential growth can get really bad really quickly on a blockchain.
How difficult do you think it is to get over onto a supernet if they were to build one out and go that way?
Honestly, it would have been basically the same, because they're not using any of the assets that are already on Polygon. Like, they're not linking over to a DEX or like an Aave protocol. They're not really doing any of that. They're just using the network for a network. Like, any network would work. I was I was kind of sad that they didn't wait a couple more months and use a supernet to own that entire network, because it could get very problematic. But maybe they'll move to supernet in a couple months.
Yeah, hopefully, because I was reading how it works, and it's like your profile's an NFT, every post is an NFT. You can, I guess, there was some sort of mechanic they were saying about an NFT that is non-transferable. So I guess there's certain NFTs you'll be able to mint, and certain ones you won't be able to, I guess. So maybe that could be a way to control, how many NFTs are getting created. But I don't know.
Pretty
We'll
sure
see.
every Danny was asking, should likes be on chain? Like, bro, if you put likes on chain, like,
Do not.
come on, like, you got to respect the chain a little bit more than that,
Yeah, 100%.
or make your own chain at that point. Make Aave chain, like that's just too much to put on chain. It's pretty
Aave
ridiculous.
SuperNet. I feel like that'd be appropriate though,
Yeah,
given all the different products. Do you ever see a lens integration with the Gotchiverse?
I mean, they just started. Everything's open source, so we'd have to. What would you guys? What would that look like? I haven't really thought about it that much. Maybe like a login with lens button.
That would be really cool, actually. Even something simple like that, that would be really cool. Log in with Lens, verify with Lens. Like how we verify with Discord. Maybe you could verify with
Mhm.
Lens protocol. So if you own
Yeah, I
a
think
Lens,
once it gets some more traction, probably
yeah.
definitely could.
I don't know. It could be maybe a way of identifying real humans, right? Or do you think bots would be able to hide? Still, I
There's
guess.
there's nothing there. I mean, they don't have any way to prevent like bots on their platform that I know of. It's just gonna anyone could create a bunch of accounts like and Sybil it. Sybil is like a Sybil attack is when just a bunch of anonymous accounts attack your website. So it seems very open to being Sybil. Not really sure how they're going to prevent bots. I mean, that's why they're doing kind of the closed beta at this point because they want to make sure that people are real who are coming on. But eventually, if they do open up, then it will be probably pretty easy to get for bots to Sybil it, which is pretty much the same problem that we are facing. Which is a good segue into one of the topics we could cover today.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that has been a hot topic this week. From both sides. I'm curious to kind of hear what people have to say. Like, and another question is, like, what's the extent of the metrics we have around,
Mhm.
botting that's going on in the Gotchiverse? Like, what sort of metrics are you guys collecting? And what kind of have you inferred from like your data that you guys have seen so far?
So actually, I made a little front end for I've been doing a lot of data analysis like the last month, just all sorts of queries, all sorts of angles, thinking about how we can uh, detect botting on chain. And so this little tool here. Be gentle with it. It's pretty new and there's a lot of caveats with it, but if you guys are interested in looking up this tool I created called knowyourscholar.com. It'll be an interesting resource for that. And eventually we're gonna also be able to support like a lot of wallets, like looking up an entire guild. But for now, it's just one wallet at a time. So basically this is gonna show you kind of a profile of a certain whatever address you put in. As you can see how much FUD, you can see basically all the alchemica that they've received. You can see how much they've spent on crafting, which is basically that's the behavior we like. You can also see how much they've LP'd and for each token, and then you can also see how much they have sold, and then you get a little extraction rate at the end there that shows basically how much of that they received are they selling, and then we kind of output a little blurb about what kind of person this is. So there's a lot to continue doing with this, but I think it's a good first look. And if you run your own guild or you have scholars, you can definitely look up and see what kind of activity they're doing on chain with their Alchemica. And I have run a lot of analyses of the players online. So obviously we can pull a full list of players online, and I've generally run a couple rounds of analysis, and I mean the majority are in the 90% and above extraction rate category. Even if they're not bots, they're still like they're majority of them are selling their tokens at this point. So I'm aiming to have more kind of statistics that we could publish to the community to know exactly like what the percentage of extraction has been in the last month or so. That's a lot of data to crunch, and we do have like a limit on this API that we're using, so there are some limitations to that, but we will be definitely providing more of that information soon.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't know about all the other guys up here, but it was a little bit choppy at the end there. I think it might be just a Wi-Fi thing, but I heard most of it. So
Cool.
this tool is really interesting. It even says your scholar type model scholar. So I guess based on the amount they're extracting, it'll also give you a kind of rating, like a scholar rating,
Mhm.
model scholar.
And those are human assigned. Like I just kind of put those in there. They're not official.
Yeah, very cool. This is going to be really helpful. And so I guess it's a very high amount of bots. Um,
Mhm.
so that's going to really be helpful to inform whatever decisions we decide to make, and how extreme those decisions need to be, for keeping the productive scholars productive, and then also giving us an opportunity to educate them, because maybe this is part of it's probably just dumping it for other tokens, but part of it's probably like they don't understand maybe the use case of these tokens. I don't know. I feel like if you're wise with your Alchemica, you can make it into a lot more than what you have. It's just about knowing how to do that. Uh, so yeah, definitely here. There's a long thread about it in the DAO discussion, and I'm sure it's going to be like a big topic for tomorrow as well. For anybody who wants to come to the DAO discussion that we'll be doing as
Mhm.
well. But yeah, I think it's interesting. I think every MMORPG I've played, like Web 2 wise, they've had this extraction problem, but it never has got the kind of reaction from the community that it does in Web 3, because we're dealing with real money, right? So it's like a more intense reaction to it, because like this is a problem in a lot of MMO RPGs. It's and I guess there's a balance to it too, right? Because if you go really hardcore with it, with banning bots, then you also affect the user experience as well, past a certain degree. If you go too extreme, like I know with Axie Infinity, they're trying to deal with their bots, when they had them botting their card games. And
Mhm.
temporarily, one of the ways they tried to solve the issue was like you'd have to do a captcha like
Yeah.
during the game when you're playing cards, but the captcha would show up every like 60 seconds. Every 60 seconds, everybody would have to, both players
So
would have to
bad.
stop the game, do captchas, like which was like another mini game within the game, and then get back to playing. And then a minute later, another captcha would show up. So it was just made it just a really crappy experience.
Imagine the drop offs off that. I would last like 5 minutes and I'm gone.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was very frustrating. But yeah, maybe there's a line between that and then also just turning it off completely. I think somewhere in between there has to be like a measure that's enough that'll deter most, like most of the bots. And so be interesting to come up with some solutions. I know you had
Well, there's
some.
captchas don't work. I mean, captchas
Yeah.
are generally very easy for bots to get around. They can also be farmed out. Like generally, by the time you release your captcha, probably within a couple days, there's people who have already farmed out captcha solvers, and they're guys in India or for like Philippines, like low income countries, and all they do is just farm captchas all day. That's literally their main job. So captchas really don't do anything. There's
Sorry, I was gonna say, because I used to do Amazon Mechanical Turks like all the time, and a lot of stuff. So it's easy to find people who will do that for very cheap.
Yep. Yeah, so that's people are always like, why aren't you guys just putting a CAPTCHA in? It'll fix everything. Like CAPTCHAs are so easy to break. We actually do have CAPTCHA. It's a Google reCAPTCHA, and it generates a score based on the activity of the user. And it's getting more and more accurate. It takes a while, but it definitely is getting more accurate than it was like a month ago. It needs a lot of data to feed off of. And so if we ban someone for having like a consistently low CAPTCHA score, there's a very good chance that they are a bot. But we can't just go off one instance. We need like multiple sessions.
I mean, one thing I was thinking about that guilds could do, depending on their relationship with players, would be potentially, hey, a third-party address is the guild wallet, and then use this tool to decide how much Alchemica these players are going to get as a top up on what they're going to get to collect. So maybe they get a smaller percentage, but it's like if you're keeping the Alchemica in the game, then you'll get a top up from the guild, whatever percentage based on your scholar type, based on how much you're dumping. If you're not dumping and you're keeping most of your earnings, you'll actually get a certain percentage added on top. This might have to be done manually, but I'm sure someone could write a script and just create a tool for redistributing that Alchemica from the third party address using this tool as a screening tool. Like that could be a potential. I mean, it's not a fix, but like it could be one potential thing that could be used.
Yeah. Well, I think this comes. What we're trying to solve here is a way to incentivize guilds who are kind of the larger. I like to think of it as like franchisees within the game. So like we want to incentivize the guilds to have an incentive to like treat their players better and also give them reasons for their scholars not to just go and dump everything. And if their scholars don't go and dump everything, the guild then gets some sort of bonus from the protocol, from the game. That's what we're trying to accomplish here with the cartridge idea.
Yeah, that's really interesting because it's like there's two ways to deal with the issue, right? We could add more stick or we could add carrot to something that we haven't had added carrot to yet.
Yeah, I'm a fan more of the carrots. I don't think sticks really. I mean, they work for certain things, but generally, I think in Web3 we tend to focus more on the stick than the carrot. Sorry, I mean the carrot more than the stick. We're generally trying
I was
to
actually trying to figure that out.
we're trying to align everyone's incentives to be going the right way, and generally that's done with carrots, although sometimes there could be sticks involved as well. So a stick could be for a guild to say if we find that one of your scholars has been using a bot, there would be a penalty for your your next cartridge. Not only would you not get a cartridge for that player, you're actually going to lose a cartridge, something like that. That would be a good example of a stick.
Yeah, okay. I see that. That makes a lot of sense, actually.
But I think
I mean,
the main issue is we need to stop the flow of all these random bot addresses coming into the game first. Because there's no matter how many bots we detect and stamp out, unless we can do it with 100% accuracy before they even start playing the game, which is generally impossible, we're always going to have bot players coming in, getting banned, and then basically like washing their money to another account and then continuing. So that's why I think
yeah.
we need to go to kind of like what Lens is doing and what a lot of games do in their early stages is have an invite only model.
Yeah, the invite only model, it seemed interesting, and then also the the payment, the cost, small cost involved potentially, that could be another way to do it. But then that's kind of like a stick approach because you're making people
Yeah.
pay. I
Yeah.
like that option, the first one, better for sure.
Yeah, we are at this stage where we are still a very alpha game, very, very early. We're not really comfortable having people pay like $5 or $10 to play the game. Although, I mean, we could do that, but we're just at this stage, we feel like it adds a lot of pressure for everyone. If the game goes down, if they get banned as like accidentally as a bot, they're gonna feel like, well, I paid $10 for this game. Like you guys, you need to make it better, like refund my money or do something like that. So that's why we'd rather not have a lot of upfront costs for inviting new players to come. And that's another reason why someone mentioned, like, why don't we just sell cartridges in Alchemica? Well, I think that's pretty much the reason. It, anyone would be able to buy a cartridge, so it would just become a sunk cost that the botters would factor into their ROI calculation. And it would also, people would feel like, oh, I paid 100 FUD for this cartridge. Like I should be able to play as much as I want.
Yeah, exactly. We don't want to be creating negative vibes, bad vibes towards the game from players who might get caught in the net, unintentionally or mistakenly. But I was also thinking of another. I don't know if you brought it up or for someone else, but temporarily stopping with like spending of Alchemica outside of the Gotchiverse, temporarily while we implement something better. I kind of wanted to know what like your thoughts were around that, or what everybody else's thoughts are around that. If we explain to players like probably for the next little bit, you might not be able to withdraw your Alchemica from within the game. It's still yours. It's in your wallet. You just might not be able to swap it into die or whatever, right? I mean,
Mm.
it's a little bit extreme, but depends, I guess, how badly the game's being botted right now.
Well, the game is being botted quite heavily, so I think that's we've crushed like thousands, like hundreds, not hundreds of thousands, but like in the 5 digits of bots at this point. There's a lot of it. As far as not letting them take it out, so that could be done with I think it was Let's Go Bankless who brought up this idea of having like a V version, VE FUD, VE FOMO, whatever. And it would be a token that you would receive it. It would be non-transferable, but you could use it to craft things in the game. I think that would be interesting. I mean, basically what it would do is people would craft these NFTs and then they would just basically try to dump them on the market for whatever ghost they could get, and then they would sell the ghost. That's probably what would happen.
Yeah,
I
it'll
mean,
come out from somewhere else, potentially.
yeah, it's just a roundabout way of getting them to extract. It's good for the crafting, it's good for the Alchemica, but it would just people would it would put a little bit more pressure probably on the secondary market. There would be a lot of sell pressure on all the different installations that people are crafting. But I mean, I think it's an interesting idea for sure. It
The
would be.
cartridges,
Mm-hmm.
the cartridges, I like that idea a lot too. Creates this relationship between players and guilds.
Mm-hmm.
I brought up a point in the DAO thread last night that I don't think we need to. I think limiting the player access is important, but I don't think it needs to be super restrictive. In that, if if the right people are handing out the right invites to the right people, then it doesn't. I don't think it matters if they have 5 invites or 50 invites, as long as like we can track where the invites are coming from, which we would be able to, and a bot couldn't get an invite get banned and then send that invite to someone else by being soul bound, like you also proposed. I think as long as the correct people have invites or are giving the invites out, I think it solves the issue. So personally, I don't think we need to be super restrictive and only allowing like 15,000 invites to be going out or anything like that.
Yeah, so we could do it as every Gotchi owner gets an invite, gets a cartridge they could give out. You could add in, and then we could add in on top of that all the tile minting, all of the altar minting, some altar upgrades. That would probably put us at around, depending on how we did it, probably about 70 to 80,000 invites. I mean, if you want, we'd have to think about, do we want to put them all out at once, or do we want to like vest them over?
I mean, we obviously wouldn't need them all at once. Like you posted the MAUs for last month, it was only like 30,000. Like there's no way we need 70,000 invites.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly. I mean, that's why we're saying, why don't we just start with 15,000 first?
Well, part of it is that,
yeah.
like, I know, I get what you're saying, but the problem is that how they're allocated.
Yeah.
So that's why, like, I think having too many is better because, like, I think at least we should start like one per Gotchi and one per like aisle or one per like cut out one of the three things essentially. Then there shouldn't be any issue of not having enough, and then it's also limited.
Yeah. I mean, the more invites we give out at once, the higher the chance of botters getting in, because it will be tempting. People might there'll be a market created for the invites at that point, and people will be certain people will be selling them.
Yeah. I was just reading some of the comments in there. And the cartridge thing is really interesting. I guess you were saying the contracts for it are pretty much ready, or like there'd be, pretty short time frame to implement that if we were to go that way.
Yeah, we actually worked on a cartridge contract a while back for mini games. So we would look at that contract, and there'd be a couple changes to it, but generally, I think it would be fairly usable. Something we could. I mean, it's not a super complex contract. It's got a charge. It's got the non-transferable counter, basically how many times it's been transferred. If it's been transferred from us to the patron, counts as one transfer, and then from patron to scholar, that would be another transfer. So really, it has two transfers, but we're only really counting it as one. So once it hits that limit, it would just revert. You can't transfer anymore. And then a little bit of metadata, and yeah, pretty much that's really all it would need. Wouldn't be very complex.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm looking forward to something like that, because we do need to improve. There's no doubt we need to improve the gameplay experience for the scholars actually do want to be here, the I guess minority that are not bots and are, they actually find the game interesting and want to play. It might make their quality of life in the game a lot better too when they don't have bots running around grabbing all the alchemica they could potentially be finding.
I think Hardcore said something earlier today or yesterday that made sense, and I've thought about it too, is that most games, when they're in alpha, they, other than like Axie Infinity that's been in alpha for 5 years, don't just allow players in mass to be playing them, because most people who play them, or most people who would go into an alpha would be like, this game's trash, but why am I playing it? Like a lot of the people coming into Gotchi don't know that this is an alpha, even though it says alpha right on the front, but they're like, why isn't this and why isn't that? And if we need to limit the players coming in. I think that's a necessity.
Yeah. One one thing we will work on next week is getting a list of scholars from each guild and kind of which scholars they would definitely want to keep on their roster, maybe would want to keep on their roster, and which ones they wouldn't really be too worried about losing. So that should also be pretty helpful, because we do want to make sure that the guilds that have active players that are doing a good job and kind of following their crafting, their maybe LPing, like those are the kind of players that we would want to ensure are sticking around when the invite period begins.
Yeah, there's definitely some real good players overall that enjoy it, and you could see they're active in the discussion and stuff too, like in the guild and whatnot. And yeah, I'm sure there's a decent amount of them that we just want to make sure that we don't that they don't get punished, they don't get stick in any way.
What do you
But
guys
I've
think about
been
a time frame for implementing this? I mean, technically, I think obviously there would be some considerations, but technically, I think we could probably have this built out within 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks max, probably. Is in the meantime, obviously what we have currently is going to continue. We are planning to put out some new recipes fairly soon. Those will be coming out. But in general, what we currently have will continue through June until the harvester release.
Is it so? Wait, new recipes is in ones that we don't know about?
Yeah.
Any kind of tidbits on that?
No, not yet.
Had to ask.
Nice try, man. Nice try.
Yeah, I mean, with the cartridges, we can maybe have a nice discussion around it tomorrow and see how people feel about it. Definitely definitely come check out the DAO discussion tomorrow if you want to voice your opinion around it, because it'd be good to hear different sides of it. But I think it could be like a good measure to implement. If the time frame even to implement it's not that long, then it could be beneficial while we start increasing the amount of spillover, right? Because once we implement harvesters, the spillover is going to go up again. And so maybe by that time, we want to make sure we kind of have some sort of tool to manage it.
I'm actually excited about the harvester release as a potential short-term sync for Alchemica, because there's a lot of people are going to be leveling up their harvesters basically as fast as possible. Some, not all of them, but some of them, and the return on investment will be delayed several months into the future. So I think we'll actually see, obviously, long term, it will add more tap, more Alchemica to the floating supply. But in the short term, it should actually be pretty good for soaking up a lot of the Alchemica that's out there.
Yeah, I think in the short term, like once we first see the harvesters release, I could see everybody gunning for level 3 pretty quickly, because it seems like everyone's upgraded to that tech tree level of level 3. And so maybe in their mind it makes sense to race to level 3 at least, and then reevaluate and see, do you want to go 4, 5, 6? Because then that's when it gets a lot more intensive as well with like resource requirements. I could see 1 to 3 just getting ripped through, like in the first couple weeks, probably the first 2 weeks, maybe even days. I don't know. There's gonna be a glitter burn around it, I'm sure. Massive glitter burn. The glitter token's very interesting. Seems like there's a lot of potential use cases for it. It's like Gotchi gold, right?
Yep. Yeah, one way I see glitter being very interesting is, so in the UI currently in the Gotchiverse, your Gotchi is holding all of your in-game Alchemica. So when your Gotchi dies, if it goes out into the grid and it gets killed or something, it's going to be spilling that Alchemica, which is not really ideal for like an in-game currency, right? You want to be able to kind of have a lot of in-game currency that you can spend whenever you want without worrying about dying. So I think that that glitter should be a good candidate for that role. Basically, you can actually deposit your glitter into the game and use it as like a currency for various in-game activities that you want to engage in. Obviously, you could use Alchemica for some things too, but we are kind of limited by the carrying capacity of the Aavegotchi, like how much it can hold.
It was always a fun time when I had like a million or a couple million gold in like games of RuneScape and
Yeah.
stuff, and you're in like a dangerous territory, and you're like, I gotta get out of here before I drop all of this.
Yeah, well, so the glitter wouldn't drop. The glitter would be like deposited into your account, and you would use it. The any of the Alchemica that you have in your pocket or any other potions or whatever that you've picked up would drop, but the glitter would be kind of like preserved from that.
Okay, it goes into like a banking account basically, and you can spend
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
That's
So
pretty cool.
there's going to be a lot of use cases for Alchemica and for glitter. Just it's a dev process. These things are not going to be built in a week. It's going to take some time, but for those who stick through it, I think everything will. People are already doing really well. I think this economy is just starting. There's a lot more to build.
Yeah, it's just getting its legs now. It's really exciting to see this iteration of the Gotchiverse is like just one altar on every parcel, and you're still already seeing, even with just these basic initial installations, that there's some differentiation, like from district to district. If you go District 1, it's like you'll see the most gold tiled spacious parcels in District 1, rather than going elsewhere. And I think it's going to keep kind of getting differentiated out, as we get more of these land decorations. You'll probably start to see those, and then harvester combinations, different combinations of those. I was actually playing around with just a spreadsheet, different harvester rates, and it was interesting to see which harvesters yield the most in dollar value versus which harvesters would yield the most in like the base FUD value.
Mhm.
So just looking at some of those metrics was pretty interesting, because in my opinion right now the keck provides the most long-term value. This is not financial advice, but the keck token, if you look at the spread between the tokens and then the actual supply of it, keck is like significantly more scarce than alpha and even FOMO, right? But the price spread is like pretty close right now. So if you
Yeah.
have like the keck harvester and you're just harvesting a bunch of keck, the dollar value won't be that high, but the base FUD value is like almost 4 times, like a factor of 4 higher than FUD.
Isn't there? I'm pretty sure there's 10x the amount of FUD as Keck, so in theory the price should be 10x, but it's actually slightly more than 10x.
Yeah,
So,
before
yeah.
it was pretty out of whack. It was like 40 times as much.
Yeah. If anything, alpha is currently the most overvalued just based on tokenomics. But obviously that is based on use case and whatnot, and it'll change over time.
Yeah, Alpha's been very heavy at the beginning recently because once we get into the harvester's reservoirs, you guys probably know which one is most in demand for those.
Yeah.
Everyone's thinking like, which one is it?
Well, if you play around with the spreadsheets, it's pretty interesting. If you look at the recipe book, that's what I was that's where I got most of the metrics from, was the recipe book on GitHub, the Adept's recipe book.
Yeah, and there will be, most likely there's going to be, the community's going to vote in some changes to that, but I mean, in general, the proportions I don't think will change very much. The harvest rates might change, but and the recipe prices might come down, but the proportions I don't think are going to change.
Just to add in on the previous thing, at the moment, alpha's really heavily used because of the tiles, I reckon, and also the early stages of upgrading the altar. You're not using much keck, but very soon, 3, 4, 5, 6, really ramps up in the amount of keck. So yeah, I think the use case will definitely come there for keck.
Do you see in the future other things being crafted with the Alchemica that are not installations? And I'm talking like maybe way down the road, but
Yeah, I think potions would be a great use case. You could, if you want to get a health potion, you could craft one in game. That would be a great use case for like in-game Alchemica that you've picked up. You could walk over to a potion shop and spend like 10 FUD or something on a potion.
Yeah, how cool's that?
Right? Yeah.
My question, Coder Dan, is how did you guys go about figuring out what stuff was going to cost, and then, taking away more alpha or more keck, depending? Did you guys kind of go with like the tokenomics on that, or?
Yeah. Once we kind of set the tokenomics and the total supplies, that was a key moment, because if the token supplies were not fixed, it would be very difficult to do any of the balancing. So we did make the decision to make them fixed supply, which helped a lot with everything. And then it just became a matter of the planning and knowing what different stages are going to be coming, and having various, like, we wanted to keep it interesting that each recipe is unique in its own way, and also there's like this interplay between the mechanical types, like the harvesters, the reservoirs, all being kind of more skewed towards FOMO as fire, and then like the alpha guild social stuff being more skewed towards alpha. And the FUD is kind of just used for everything. The FUD is it's kind of like the building block.
Do you think that it created any up pressure for alpha, because alpha is obviously a lot higher than keck in comparison to its tokenomics?
So there was a reason for that, and that's because once the harvesters that release comes, if you've looked at the recipe book, you know that there's alpha is going to be kind of not used as much for that release. Obviously, there's probably going to be more things that use alpha, but specifically for harvesters and reservoirs, there's not really much alpha included in those recipes. So it was necessary.
That kind of goes to my question, is now that alpha is kind of blown up higher than it probably should be, and now you're taking away more like kind of use case for the alpha in the immediate future, do you think that's going to really affect its price, because it's not going to have as much now that you had so much?
I have no idea. I mean, this is the market's going to do what the market wants to do.
Oh, no, I know. I was just saying, like, because of the way that you release the token, it could fluctuate some of the coins up and down depending on what the use case is at the time. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think there could be some cycles, but we'll have to see. It's not something really anyone can predict. I mean, you can look at the roadmap, you can look at the recipe book and make some guesses, but what actually happens is hard to predict, really.
Oh, no, I know everything's hard to predict in this game. I just meant by like the way the timing is, because if the time for the releases is a little different, even though some of the recipes, could intermingle and make everything even, for the very beginning, it kind of makes, like, if there's only a couple things released, it's just a little bit more lopsided.
I mean, I think overall with Alchemica, like you're saying, it's early. It's going to be volatile. I'm looking at it more as a resource. like what am I going to do with the Alchemica rather than what is the Alchemica worth? But I know that has to be taken into account, obviously, right? It can't go to like nothing can go to zero. It has to have an intrinsic, like some sort of established value. But I'm looking at it like, how much Alchemica do I need, and measuring everything in quantity of Alchemica, just because to me the dollar value right now is not that important of Alchemica. I'm going to be using it. I'm going to be burning it anyway to build installations. So I'm looking at my strategy even for harvesters around the production of like specific types of Alchemica, and what quantities of each type of Alchemica I'll need, and basing everything off of that. I think it's really hard, like it's really challenging probably to base a lot of decisions off the price of what it's going to do, because it's going to go on a wild ride, I'm sure, till we get some actual established values for it, over like the long term, right?
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Over the long term, Alchemica will absolutely be established. My question kind of for Coder Dan was more, did they kind of figure out the tokenomics on an overall for all the different pieces? And then I was kind of just wondering, because some of the pieces are being released in order. So it's kind of like, I'm just trying to calculate, you know what I mean? And like you said, I just got to go in and make my own calculations like I have been. I was just kind of, just wondering, but yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think it's a good time to like start thinking about harvester strategies and how, to approach that, because there's definitely more than one way. You could upgrade things really quickly. You might not get your initial investment back right away, but you'll be producing a lot of Alchemica. And then there's the other way of doing it where you could do a lot more lower level installations, and you'll get your initial return back, but then it's also going to take you a lot longer to get all the Alchemica out of your parcel. And then there'll be everything in between, right? So
Yeah.
it's going to be interesting to see different strategies come out, and then even the different types of Alchemicas that you mine. You might have to look at if you want to install more Keck harvesters versus FUD, depending on what you want to do. Like in Alchemica wise, maybe the Keck harvester might make the most sense. But if you look at some of the other ones, the dollar value is higher for what they produce. But that again, that might change, right? Because I think the rates might change. But it is interesting to look at all four and see, like how you want to shape your strategy, like around that.
Oh, absolutely. I was thinking Hefe, like I was thinking some people, because it seems that like some of the Alchemica is being dumped a lot. So I was thinking like some people might be just dumping it to buy it back later. You know what I mean? And maybe with all the alts being down, that's their strategy to come back in, and that might be why it's kind of kicking everything down right now.
My strategy might be a smooth brain one, but I've just been matching all my Alchemica with Ghost and adding it as liquidity. So as the price goes down, I end up with more Alchemica. And then maybe like once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks, I'll pull everything out, do a bunch of upgrades, and then add what's left over back. That way, no matter what the price is, I'm going to kind of be somewhere in that range.
So you
I'm
kind of
assuming.
made a
I could be
liquidity
wrong.
pool? That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So as the price goes down, you end up with more Alchemica, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. You'll just be buying more.
Yeah. So I just add liquidity with everything that I get from the altars. I match it with ghosts.
Yeah, that is interesting. Because again, you're looking at the long-term value of the Alchemica, what it means to you, because you're going to be, I guess, using it probably for building out a whole bunch of harvesters and stuff, I'm assuming.
Yeah, so if one asset takes a huge dive, I'll have more of that asset when I'm ready to build. I'll probably build based on what's low in price and what's needed. That kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. So we have a couple events here coming up pretty quick. We got the land raffle coming up, or not the land raffle. We got the decorations raffle first. Well, how are you
Yeah.
guys preparing for that? Well, what are you excited about for that specifically?
I'm just
Ooh, this
excited we
seems like
have
a good spot for me to
raffle. There you go.
jump
Hey
in
there,
here.
sir.
Yeah, huge fan of the
Morning.
decorations raffle. So, Dan could speak more to the technical side, but really it's, we've run a lot of raffles in the past, and this won't be any different in terms of most of the infrastructure needed to make it happen. Still be using Chainlink VRF. It'll start next Thursday, the 9th, run through Sunday. And as soon as the drawing is concluded, you will have your decoration NFTs in your wallet if you won. So for me, I just like, I see Tommy Gotchi here in the chat talking about we need more kind of vanity or decorational type of NFTs. And I think this initial raffle with these rarity linked ones by their color coordination, I feel like that's just the beginning to like kickstart that whole subgenre of things that hopefully you'll also be able to craft decorations and not just win these 6 and then that's the end of it. So it's more like the beginning of a category. So super stoked for that. In terms of when it launches, you're going to be using the rarity tickets like normal, not the drop tickets. Other than that, Dan, the UI will be pretty familiar, right? So if you've ever been in a raffle before with Aavegotchi, then should feel very much at home.
Yep. Yeah, we will be minting the decorations quite soon here, and then the UI is basically ready to go from what I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
Gonna have to dust off the old VRF. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's the best feeling when you see the ticket, the claim ticket, claim your decoration, I guess.
Yeah.
It's going to be something like that.
I can see those dice rolling in my head.
Those sweet, sweet Chainlink dice.
Yeah,
visually, these things are going to look pretty amazing. In terms of scale, how do these things scale? Compared to like a humble parcel. I don't know. It might be hard to describe, but I'm trying to imagine the
You mean
size of one of these things.
The size of a decoration?
Yeah.
I believe they're all, for the most part, maybe everyone in this batch are 2x2. And Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, but they're not that big.
I think they're all 1 by 1.
Oh, they're really decorations in that sense. And so 1 by 1, I think the idea is partially that, these are vanity, they're decorational. So as awesome as they may be, you probably don't want to, especially on a humble parcel, every square counts. So you probably don't want to necessarily have to sacrifice a large percentage of your space in order to enjoy one of these. So when he says 1 of 1, that's 1 Gotchi by 1 Gotchi. Yeah.
That gives me some cool ideas for some arrangements with the campfires. Maybe I'll go for common campfires then and try and get like 20 of them.
Yeah.
Like you could imagine you have a Gotchi lodge and you have like a row, like a laneway of like campfires burning,
That would be sick. Yeah. I'm looking forward to like all these just decorations all over the game. It's gonna really start spicing things up a little bit.
Yeah, and it really is just the beginning because these are, historically linked to be the first ones, but there's really going to be so many opportunities to start customizing and bring in user-generated content. I think this just represents the beginning of that process.
Is this like akin to like maybe like the first Gotchi wearables when they came out, kind of like a similar idea? When you say new category?
Kinda, I guess. In my head, I just don't want it where we bring out 6 decorations and then we don't hear about decorations for like another few months or 6 months or something, and and it's always a raffle and it's rare. We could go that route, but I think it's more like it'd be nice to just use this as a kickoff for that category, and we just see a nice stream of occasional decorations coming through. Obviously, not all of them will have the same rarity as what we're doing in this one. Some of these are extremely rare, and they're kept very specifically because they're raffled instead of crafted. So I think there's room for a little nuance, and you can have different types of decorations with different ways of creating them or realizing them. But yeah, this should be kind of like the kickoff.
That's very cool with the kickoff being a non-craftable item, because it's visually rare. Like, you won't see that many of these items in the Gotchiverse. And so I could see there being opportunities for crafting or, questing for items you could put on your parcel, because there's that differentiate, like you can really differentiate that this thing is just visually rare. Like, you're not going to see that many rare campfires,
Yeah.
right?
It's like it feels like when you go into someone's house and you see, oh, this person's like very well traveled. They have all sorts of artifacts from around the world, and you just think, wow, it's like you have a different impression of them. Someone also said it's like, if you go into your parcel, it's like you own a business and your office is in like a very nice office building versus just in like a dump somewhere. It just feels like you would know that this is like a quality player when just by going on their parcel. So I think it'll be really interesting later once we have like NFT displays and more sorts of advertisements that players can put in the game. You there'll be this feeling that this is like a higher quality player. They've invested more in their parcel, so that whatever they're shilling to me, it's probably worth a little bit more than someone who's got none of that stuff and just an advertisement.
Yeah, it's social proof.
Yep.
Just like real life. It'll be pretty good.
100%. I see Hardcore has a really great suggestion for little gold bars that you could stack like Legos for hedges.
Well, that gets into another kind of, I don't know if they're decorations, but subcategory of decorations, which is you should be able to arrange very simple shapes and colors on your parcel, right? And it basically is like Legos. So definitely something to that.
Wow, it seems like there's a lot of thinking behind the aesthetics of like how parcels could look really different in like the near future. Now everything's so like uniform and aside from the golden tiles, very much similar, right? So like I was saying, the seeing everything differentiated out, and you might see these common, more craftable items everywhere, and then you'll see the occasional godlike fire, which will be worth probably taking a screenshot of every now and then.
Yeah. Yeah, it will be great for scholars too that maybe don't have a great scholarship score right now. And it could be better for them if they have more things to craft. So they could contribute to maybe their guild is building a huge castle or something, and they can contribute by creating bricks. So
Yeah, we haven't really talked about it that much, but some sort of uh, building access for parcels where you could allow other people to come and not only they like if they own an installation, they could actually plop it down on your parcel. That would be also pretty neat. Well, that'll be probably a future permission that we'll be able to add. But you could have like Jesse was saying that you could have scholars who have crafted a tile. They could just put it down onto a parcel owned by their guild without having to like go through the guild itself.
Has anyone mentioned for sale signs? If the parcel in question is listed on the bazaar, have a for sale sign like in the game.
that's really good. That's
Yeah,
I like that.
yeah, because I'm curious. Like, I'm really interested in buying the
Yeah,
parcels.
very useful for communicating your intent or the status of your parcel.
Yeah, I'd like to buy parcels next to mine, but I haven't been able to like go into the tools and see which ones are available. And it'd be nice just to like log in, do a quick little run around, see if any are for sale, and then find out that way.
Yeah, I like that idea. Plus one vote for that.
That's also that's the intention of the NFT display. I mean, the NFT display is kind of a multi-use in a installation that you could if you have a parcel listed for sale in the bazaar, you would basically show it on the NFT display. I mean, we could have a for sale sign as well for a parcel, but that's also one utility of the NFT display.
So
When do
would
you,
they,
sorry.
Yeah, another one we've been looking at, which has a little bit of a heavier lift than just the word for sale, but if you had a kind of like a ticker, like a news ticker where the information goes across the screen with like LED lights, if you could install like a ticker and program in like say 20 characters or something, put a custom message to host on your parcel. All that kind of stuff will help give you a reason to actually host something and convey information from your parcel, which kind of leads to the value of your parcel going up, because other than farming, you have like specific reasons to draw people to your parcel, to sell something, to display them or educate. That all becomes possible with more signage.
When do you think you're gonna add the right now we have like parcel access rights, but is there gonna be like parcel build rights eventually? Like say where you can give me access to their land and I can go in and build on it if I have the Alchemica?
Yep, I mean that's in the Gotchiverse Bible. That's definitely planned to do that. Just a matter of getting to it.
Dope.
The easiest way would be to say if you have the installation already in your inventory, you can basically plop it right down on the parcel. The harder implementation would be like actually crafting it and taking it from the parcel itself, like a pocket for the parcel. But if we wanted to get something quick out, the easiest way would be to just say anyone that has a parcel can put it down. They have the installation in their inventory. They can put it down on the parcel. But the complexity there, I guess, gets into the upgrades. Because if you place a level 1, that's cool. But if you want to upgrade it, the builder would also need to have the Alchemica in their wallet to be able to execute that transaction. So I think it could be done. It wouldn't be impossible, but it would be a little bit more effort.
Do you see in the future, like right now, you can give your borrowed gotchis access to channel on your land, right? But what if you're a gotchi holder that has like parcels and only gotchi? Do you see like permission being given where I can allow just any gotchi to channel off my land, or like whitelisted addresses, not necessarily my borrowed gotchis, but say, if I rent a gotchi and I have permission to channel on somebody else's land, I can walk over there and then channel. That currently can't happen. That I know
No,
of.
it's in the Gotchiverse Bible. Again, we will definitely be getting to it. A lot of these stuff, it's simple to do on the contract side, but the UI ends up lagging quite a bit, and it kind of creates this environment where people who are very dev friendly or able to do these kind of things have a significant advantage over those who don't. So that's kind of something we're trying to avoid to some extent, and not purposefully like create this gap between what is possible with the contract and what's easy for non-technical players to do. So that we will eventually be adding more access rights like that. But they can be a little bit complex for people like to go into Looper Dev and do so. Yeah, that's why it'll take a little bit longer.
Are you going to be adding like the ability to like batch rental soon, or?
Yeah, again, the functionality is there. It's just we're working on right now a big V2 version of the site which has taken up a lot of the front end muscle at the moment. So that's why there haven't been as many updates to the Aavegotchi.com. The great news is though, once that V2 is done, there'll be a lot of it'll be very much more flexible and extensible than the current site for adding a lot of that kind of stuff. So I expect the V2, we're actually looking to have that live, a V2 version that will kind of be in sync with V1, that you'll be able to use the V2 or the V1 at the same time. You can kind of pick. So those will be going live definitely this month.
Well, I had a quick thing that I just kind of thought up. I know I asked before about you guys creating a token, but I was thinking like if you guys were to create a token, you basically could create it to, build out Pixelcraft. I mean, gigantic to where any of this lag would be nothing, right? It could be like Amazon.
You mean like, I don't quite. We have 5 tokens right now.
No. I
Uh,
meant for Pixelcraft itself because you guys are technically separate from the game, right? This is a DAO.
mhm. Yeah.
So for Pixelcraft
6
itself,
tokens.
kind of, is that something that like is built separately, or is all the servers just for the DAO, and that's you guys don't own them, or how does that work?
So the Gotchiverse is a game built. Gotchiverse is the flagship game of the NFT protocol that is owned by the DAO. So the way we think about it is the Gotchiverse is Pixelcraft's official game built on top of Aavegotchi, and we're giving the rights to the DAO to kind of make decisions about the game and guide the direction of the game. But
But would-
we're kind of holding we have to manage the servers. At the end of the day, someone's got to pay Amazon. So all that is done through Pixelcraft.
No, I was
That's
just, I was just wondering if you guys were thinking about like creating your own massive, server network.
well, I mean, I think that's a good segue into my. I had a question around the mini game arcade and how we have a potentially maybe an arcade task force coming together. What's your guys' vision for mini games in the Gotchiverse? As we start building out, how do you see mini games like fitting into the realm of the Gotchiverse?
Yeah, I would love to have like a way that you could place a little mini game portal within your parcel, or possibly even like publicly within the space. You could walk up to it and you could just jump in and start playing the mini game right there without even needing to really leave the Gotchiverse. I mean, that's the vision. What it would probably end up being is like it would be a window that would open up when you would click on the game, and it would take you to the site of whoever's hosting that game. That would be like a basic implementation of it. They're not, it depends on kind of also what mini games they're building. Eventually we will be releasing an SDK where people can build on the Gotchiverse with our servers. And so if you were able to craft an experience, like this is getting a little bit out there, but having like a map builder and like a game engine to be able to create your own mini game in the Gotchiverse, that would be like a more native mini game.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like what some metaverses like Sandbox is something like that, where they have a world building tool and someone with maybe not extensive dev knowledge is able to use their little game builder and create characters and stuff. So, maybe one day in the future, right? Like that's probably like you said, talking way out there, but in the short term, you're saying potentially there could be like an installation kind of thing where you could put down and access the arcade or specific mini games.
Yeah, the issue with external links is like if we give the ability for anyone to put an external link into the game, it's like very likely going to lead to people getting scammed, like getting because they wouldn't really be trusted links. So we would want to ensure that any link that's coming from the Gotchiverse from a site is either like somewhere like OpenSea, or it's the Bazaar, or it's like a trusted mini game site that we've vetted.
Is there a way to
So-
get like verified? Like, could you verify people to actually allow them the ability to do that on their parcels?
like basically each link to protect the end user, each link would need to kind of ideally it would be open source. People could view the code of it, make sure that it's not going to be stealing their funds. And there will be some sort of more formal process than we currently have, like for the tools page or the mini games page. But that could definitely also be something that this mini game task force is like overseeing, making sure that the games that people are putting out are not riddled with bugs, and they're not also going to be exploiting user funds.
One way to protect that might be to just allow rented gotchis into the mini games. Even the people like me, I could just rent my own gotchi real quick and play the mini game. But wouldn't that get rid of the security risk?
You could still like send other tokens. There's a lot of ways that a site can like.
Yeah, you're right. I have no idea. So I was just wondering.
I mean, yeah, the rental gotchis would be for preventing your gotchis to be taken out, but they could still take your Alchemica, they could take your Ghost, they could take over your computer. There's a lot of ways that someone can screw you over on the internet.
I mean, the way I see it is not a centralized, but a source where there's an arcade, and that's where all the mini games that have been, maybe they go through some sort of vetting process, and they have to follow a certain framework, like Coyote's mini game template, and then I guess the ATF would also maybe play a role in making sure these games are, safe to interact with, and that they've been vetted to like be genuine like Aavegotchi mini games, and then have them all hosted like in an arcade on a website or an interface, kind of like if you guys remember Miniclip, if you ever
Kind of like
interacted
our
with
own
that.
app store. Like you could
Yeah,
just go
kind of
in.
like that maybe. But yeah, the portal idea sounds really interesting. Is Pixelcraft looking at making any phaser based little games like that over the long term? Uh, I imagine like Pixelcraft Square will have probably a lot of these sorts of things, right? Like gaming experiences or
Yeah, we are.
I'd also add. Oh, I'd just add the partner parcels too, like Pixelcraft Square, partner parcels. These are prime locations to add some unique experiences.
yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
we'll be focusing primarily on in-game um, gaming, so things that don't necessarily take the user out of the game, like into another phaser game. But there's a lot that we can do within the game, and then also having like the Gotchi Lodge as kind of an external, like exterior area. You're still technically in the game, but it's like a layer a little bit outside of the game that's a lot more configurable. That would be like the Gotchi Lodge is, if you think about the SDK, that will be probably one of the like prototypes of the SDK. We'll be building the Gotchi Lodge, and you'll be able to walk inside it. It'll be a room. It'll feel like you're in a different space. So that builder that we end up using would be a way, like would be eventually open source, so other people could build experiences inside their Gotchi Lodge or other like rooms that we have, dungeons, for example, in the game.
That's very cool. I
can't
mean,
wait.
sorry, go ahead, Crypto Godfather.
I was just going to say, I can't wait for Dungeons. I love that. That's going to be awesome.
So is it gonna be like, do you potentially see like you think you're going in a lodge, but then you somehow end up in a dungeon that someone built? You know, they're not stuck in this dungeon. They gotta play this game to get out.
Drugs.
Well, maybe they have like the guy from Saw, right? Like, I want to play a little game. Can't get out of the lodge till you finish the sequence. But yeah, there might be
Yeah.
some really interesting things.
I know Roblox has some kind of gameplay like that where there's like scary versions and like mirror houses and things like that.
That's super cool.
That's funny.
Hey guys, this kind of reminds me of a real life escape room we could do, but I don't think that'll be the theme. But we got the details confirmed for New York, NFT NYC. So I'm going to share the flyer we've got with all the information on it. And if you guys are on the fence about going to New York, I think you're going to like this. We got June 21st, an exclusive space, not just the top floor, but also the rooftop. And it's going to be the first proper Gotchi Gang rooftop party. So that's going to be on the 21st in Manhattan. And I'll be there. Zbot will be there. Gravy will be there. A lot of Pixelcraft Gang will be there. And then hopefully, and No Futuristic will be there. And then hopefully a lot of, and a lot of others I'm talking to that sound like they're going to probably be able to make it too. So if you're interested in going, just reach out in RSVP with myself or really Gravy. Gravy is handling the guest list. So you can reach him either through his Twitter, like he's done for some of the retweet campaigns, or DM him here in Discord and he'll take care of you. But yeah, open bar, music, NFTs. It's going to be sweet. We got our friends from GBM co-sponsoring. They're going to be holding it down. We'll meet some of the GBM team in real life. And then same goes for Chainlink and Polygon. We got our friends from Chainlink coming and they'll be crashing the party. So it's going to be pretty sick.
Is Sergey going to be there?
I don't know if it'll be Sergey, but maybe somebody from Chainlink in a plaid shirt. Close enough.
Perfect. Good enough.
If Supreme Pablo wants to DJ, just reach out. We could talk about it. But we're gonna have a lot of cool media, and I think No Futuristics agreed to help out a bit with some of the media and stuff. So it's gonna be pretty well produced.
Yeah, I'm hoping
that's
to
awesome.
live stream a lot of it, so it should be. We're going to be documenting this. It's going to be fun.
That sounds awesome. Nice.
Yeah, we'll be there throughout the whole week, but it's kind of at the front half. It's a really good chance for Gotcha Gang to get together and then enjoy the week.
What
meet
days
up
are
in the
those?
front. June 21 is the party, our party, and the whole NFT NYC kind of goes from kind of the 20th to the 24th. Like that whole week is NFT week.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I just realized I never got a ticket to the conference. It's going to be.
Yeah, you'll be busy regardless because there's so many side events like what we're doing on the 21st, and then Chainlink has an event on the 22nd. So if you are in town, you're looking to do all these things, just express interest in those, and we'll try to get you more info about Chainlink's event. And then Polygon has like a huge, I think it's being called like Polygon Hub, and they're going to have a big area in the city that is like 3 floors of Polygon. I think we have some panels there on the 23rd. So Gotcha Gang will be around. So definitely need to know if you're going to be there so we can link up.
Are there going to be live streams of the events or like in general NFT NYC, like for people to tap in online? Some of the seminars?
So glad you mentioned, like, I don't know about NFT NYC, how much they're broadcasting, but for our own party, it's really important that the rooftop party gets connected here in the Discord with you guys. So we're looking into, like, imagine like a telephone booth, a little corner with a microphone hooked into either the amphitheater or another voice channel. And that's just like anyone can go in and interact in the Discord with everybody straight from the party. And then hopefully we can do some live streams from the party as well. So we'll try to keep it all connected.
It's cool. We can definitely try and organize another little mini event on the back end there for those who can make it.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of coordination, but it should be great. So definitely, it sounds like Chonya is gonna be there. That's awesome. Just yeah, if you're going to New York for the NFT stuff, definitely let us know. We'll probably have a few surprises too. Maybe we'll see what we can do. Probably definitely some nice swag to give away, all that good stuff.
I'm gonna bring an extra bag just for the swag. I made that mistake last year, and I was like, "Oh crap, my bag was about to explode." So I'm gonna bring an extra bag just for goodies.
Right. You leave New York and you've got like 4 new hoodies, 2 jackets, like 5 baseball hats.
Yeah, I got to fill out the background a little bit more on my. So this will work.
Is anyone in the Gotchiverse right now?
Yeah,
Always.
I've been running
Jumping
around
in.
collecting Alchemica. I've collected 8 Alchemica so far, just running around. So
Nice.
don't know who's channeling, but thanks.
I'm
for
on the
channeling.
east side of D1 right now, heading down
A
to.
lot of that channeling's been me.
I actually have 12 level 3 parcels that need channeled. So if anyone has Aavegotchis that need channeled, please DM and we can get that set up.
I'm heading to the east side.
Nice. I'm gonna jump on the road here. Ooh, I see a nice parcel with 4 Gotchi golden tiles. Beautiful. Looks like a level 2 altar on it. Need to pump those numbers up. Big spacious parcel.
All right, guys, I gotta jump off here. I appreciate you all. I'm gonna check out this New York thing. That kind of sounds fun. Till we meet again.
All right, man. Later.
Sounds good.
Cool,
Tommy
cool.
Gotchi
Later.
says, when can I swap out the altar? So yeah, the unequipping should be. We had to do a final change to the a review of the contract, and that should be live next week. So once that's live, the front end will be syncing up with that, and I'm very confident it will be launched next week. So you'll be able to finally unequip your installations from your parcel. It's been a little bit longer than we were hoping, but it'll be pretty sweet to be able to do that.
Do we have an official date for the land raffle coming up as well? Is that later in June or is that going to be in July? When's that happening?
Golden Cross, I know we have some general dates. Do we have an exact date for the land auction and raffle yet?
I think it's just one dev meeting away from locking in as absolutely doable, but we are trying our best to get it in June because that's what the core prop pushed for. So it would be likely the last weekend of June. We like to have these end on a Sunday. So I think it's like
Yeah.
the 26th or something. So June's going to be busy. June's
Oh yeah.
like there's a lot of content coming in the next few weeks.
Yeah, really looking forward to all that. You guys have been shipping like crazy and crushing bots on top of that, It's not easy to do, so appreciate that.
Yeah, the bot wars never end.
They really never do. I mean, even playing that game, I always talk about RuneScape. I played that game for like 12 years and they went through like many economic cycles of adding in different things to try and balance it out. What it came down to, and it still wasn't super effective, but players in the game today, if they want to keep a membership going, which is basically all the access to the quests and events and everything, And even like the different higher tiers of resources, they have to grind out resources and sell them for gold, kind of like what would be glitter in our game. And then they would have to use that gold to purchase bonds. And each bond, when you burn it, it's good for 3 months of membership. So, I mean, there's still ways to game that system, but it seemed to like tamp down a lot of the bot activity. You know, a lot of the lower resources still got farmed like crazy, but the higher resources were their value was protected like that.
So they would. So the bond. How does that bond work?
They would basically use the in-game currency, the gold, and they would
Mhm.
purchase the bonds. And then you could store the bonds, or you could sell them. You couldn't sell them through like the main market, but you could sell them like over the counter, to other
Mhm.
players if you wanted to. But the bond would sit in your inventory, and when you burn the bond, you get 3 months of membership.
And the
So I
bonds
think
there's no limit to how many people can buy.
no, there was no limit to how many people could buy, but they were like super expensive. Like it would take a lot of
Uh,
grinding to get a bond. Like you would have to really put in some serious hours to get a bond, or you'd have to just, you could buy the bonds if you go to like Best Buy, or if you go to one of these like little shops. Sometimes convenience stores have like cards, like payable cards, and you can pick up the card, and the card is, could buy some bonds in fiat. So you could buy the memberships in fiat, or you could grind out the gold amount to get the bond.
how much was it in fiat?
I think 3 months was like $20 or something like that. I think it was a little bit more than that actually. I have to remember. I think it was 25, something like that.
Hmm.
Otherwise, you'd have to grind out this specific amount of gold to buy it in the game, which was a lot more grindy to get that.
Yeah. And you said that didn't really. It's kind of solved the issue, but not completely.
It created a better quality of life improvement for the higher tier levels of gameplay, like when you actually get into like the quests and like actually doing the mini games, because they had a lot of mini games in there, and collecting the higher tiers of resources were protected basically, and even like access to the mines, because like some of the mines you need to have a membership to get access to them, otherwise you wouldn't be allowed in. You'd just be allowed to farm like the main gameplay kind of areas that had like the lower tier of rocks and stuff, lower tier of resources.
You can have the rocks, we'll have the nice area. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, so like players could really, if they wanted to be bots, they could like spend a lot of time grinding out these like very cheap resources, that get sold on the open market for cheap, so they can get their gold and get another bond, because they'd be farming the bonds, but they wouldn't be able to touch any of the higher tier resources. That it would kind of be like if bots could only really farm FUD, but like that would be hard to implement in our game. Maybe, I don't know.
It would
And
definitely
it's
be
always
confusing.
What's that?
it's always you guys go.
I just said it would be confusing for a player if they can only pick up like FUD. They're like, why can't I pick up Keck? I mean, I guess we could just say, sorry, your player level is not high enough to pick up Keck yet.
Well, maybe they have to hold a cartridge to be able to pick up Alpha and Keck. Maybe they can only pick up FUD if they don't have a cartridge.
Or they
I
only
mean,
get
I'm
10%. Maybe they only get 10% and 90% gets burnt or gets redeposited somewhere else or something like that. Goes into a pool.
Yeah, it's tied to some parameters like that, maybe.
Yeah, Tommy Gotchi, I think the lower carry capacity is an interesting idea that I've thought about that a little bit. If you're like you've just joined the game, maybe your carrying capacity is only 10. Like it's very low. So the amount that you'd have to schlep pretty far, pick up your Alchemica, and then find like the nearest vortex. It could slow them down and the
I don't
rate
think
of
that really changes
extraction.
anything, to be honest, because like, I mean, it might change once harvesters are out and there's spillage from harvesters, but like
Mhm.
even 10 Alchemica takes over an hour to farm, so
Yeah,
it wouldn't slow people down that much. There's a vortex in every district. It's not
yeah,
that
yeah,
hard to take it out.
yeah. Probably not very effective. If there, I mean, I would love if there was an economic solution where we could just say, uh, somehow new players need to spend this much amount of money. At the same time, we don't really want them to have to pay up front at this stage yet. Like we're still very, very alpha games. That's why I'm still fairly against like having an upfront cost for people.
Like
If there's a way to, Mhm.
I was just saying, I understand what everyone's talking about, how chemical prices going down, but this is a temporary problem that I'm sure is planned, like that I'm sure you guys have plans for in the future. Like if we can craft wearables and the wearables are actually usable in like dungeons to kill liquidators or whatever, like this is a temporary issue, and like it's going to solve itself in time.
Yeah. Yeah, another thing to consider is the FDV, the fully diluted valuation of these tokens is still like quite high. Uh, I think
Yeah,
they're high.
it's
It's
hundreds of
higher
millions,
than
right?
Ghost. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Just something to consider as well. Like there is also a possibility that they're overvalued for what the market currently believes they should be, and so we're reaching that equilibrium point. I think that's a kind of a bearish case to think about, but it's also, there are multiple realities to consider here.
And yeah, don't
The-
forget we're also in a pretty severe bear market right now. So like there's not a ton of hype around NFT games right now. So
Yeah.
once the next bull market comes around and all the hype comes back, like who knows what we would have been at if Bitcoin stayed over 50K, 60K, 70K, Like it's hard to
Well,
predict these
yeah.
kind of things.
Even if it goes like if Bitcoin was at 70K today, our game is it's like it's in a strange place because the number of players who could actively join would still be fairly low because one, infrastructure issues where we're working on increasing server capacity so we could have 100,000 people on at a time. Currently, the max limit is probably around 10,000 before the servers are completely burned out, which we're working on every day. And then the other part would just be there's only 25,000 gotchis, so we'd have to have more gotchis to have more players or have liquidators, which is on the roadmap. So I think by the time we get to the next big bull market, we're going to be in a great spot. I'm really excited for that. I love bear markets. It's like a great time to just sit back and build and build like a strong community around something that everyone is excited about because of their intrinsic love for the project. So I think we're
Yeah.
going to emerge from this bear market very, very strong.
Yeah, when people are talking about like pushing marketing, I'm thinking like we shouldn't be pushing, we don't have the server capacity to push marketing. Like we're honestly like at a pretty good spot player wise. If it was 4 times X this, like imagine what 8 p.m. Alchemica channeling would be like. It would be impossible.
Yeah, I think it's all part of the process. And I think it's with like a year from now, we're going to be in such a different spot. We're going to have so much more in this metaverse to people will be looking at they look at the Gotchiverse like that right now. It really should be like a private alpha that only Gotchi gang is able to play because it's still like very kind of like not beautified in many areas. But one day it's going to be super nice. It's going to be very, very beautiful place, and
Obviously,
the
this would
world.
be a controversial opinion, but like you could argue that lending, other than maybe whitelisting, like shouldn't have been implemented so early. Like, because it just allowed the floodgates to open up, and that's not necessarily the best thing.
Yeah, I think lending is a great opportunity to obviously it's going to come with a lot of challenges, but I do think that it's a great way to start bringing in more people from other that are NFT gamers. Like they're going to be playing our game, and I think that's a group of people that we want to start attracting and forming good relationships with. Not
Well,
all of them are going to be,
sorry.
very
I was gonna say
quality.
lending is definitely important, but like if it was only whitelists, then at least like you would have to like talk to someone
Yeah.
before just jumping in, right?
Yeah, I think so the play drop, the idea behind that was basically let's tax our servers as hard as possible and see what they're capable of. Then we got through that phase, and then after the end of that, it probably would have been fine to close it down just to whitelist only. But I think we still have plenty of time to do that. I think it'd be if we do that in June, I think it'll be still very good timing for that.
Actually, thinking about it, what's the difference essentially between the cartridges and just like whitelisted lending? Like, is there that big of a fundamental difference?
So whitelisted lending would be we'd have to essentially maintain all those whitelists on chain. A lot of the guilds are kind of doing that already, but there's also a lot of people maintaining lists that are might have bots on them, or like they're not really vetted by they're not vetted very seriously.
Okay, yeah. You're saying it'd be harder to track, I guess, right?
Yeah, so if once we have the cartridges, I mean, technically someone can still lend, like, but they can borrow a gotchi even if they don't have a cartridge, but will have to make it very clear on the UI that
Yeah, I was just
you
thinking
don't.
this poor chat's why can I borrow a gotchi if I can't play? It's gonna come up all the time.
Well, we're gonna make that very clear on the UI. We'll show them, you don't have a cartridge, you cannot play in the Gotchiverse. Here's how you can get a cartridge. Go join a guild. Go reach out to a player that has one. I think we'll probably want to build out a dashboard that shows all of the different guilds and how many cartridges they have. That would be pretty cool, I think. I don't know if the guild would want to do that or not. So
Well,
if you're a guild, please start reaching out to us. Let us know how you would like, to handle this process, because what we don't want is a bajillion people showing up and basically instead of like I want to become scholar, I want to like how do I want to get a cartridge. I mean, that will happen. So if we do this system, they should prepare for that. But anything we can do to make it simpler for the guilds, or like the presentation aspect to make it easier, would if you have any ideas about that, feel free to reach out.
I was looking at fireball.gg, and they actually have built out a guild inventory. They haven't filled it out completely yet. Maybe they're in the process of reaching out to everybody, but they have a whole guild inventory where you can see the guild's lands and you can see their rentals. So maybe they are already thinking about this and they've accumulated some like a database around it. Maybe they might be worth if maybe Yannick might know, have some stuff set up around this already, and it's just a matter of conveying the need for it. Like we need this, and maybe there's a community sourced like tool that gets made. I don't know.
Yes, that's kind of what I'm doing. The know your scholar is kind of a first step. So
Yeah.
ideally, there'd be a way to see, like we could say basically any player that has they have 50% like score on the Know Your Scholar site would be eligible for a cartridge from a guild. So, and the other ones, like, I'm sorry, they won't be eligible this time. You're not going to receive cartridges for them. Like, I don't think there's a situation where we could give invitations to 100% of all the scholars that a guild has. because then
Yeah, I
um,
like that competition for the cartridge. Like you got to make sure you're retaining yield in order to continue. You can harvest the yield. That seems to be the incentive there.
yeah, they should be. There should be a portion of what they're earning that's being like reinvested into longer time preference assets, like in the NFTs. If they just earn it and dump it, like they're not bringing really any value to the game. So for this initial version, I mean, we're gonna have to turn people away because they've shown a preference for short-term thinking.
We spoke about it briefly before, but the know your scholar thing still needs to be optimized a bit more, right? Like you need to,
Yeah.
it doesn't currently account for someone swapping to ghosts, which shouldn't be counted as extracting. I assume it wouldn't count for someone like buying a gotchi off the, or buying anything, I guess, off the bazaar.
Yeah, we'll have to check, like, have they bought any gotchis? Have they like, did they buy any parcels with it? We're currently only looking at the Alchemica, so yeah, we need to add in the ghost part of that as well.
I would also strongly consider adding in Matic because people will be swapping to Matic because they're going to need more gas and potentially USDC if they're going into. If you could see them doing on chain, like going the liquidity pairing pools, like the Ghost USDC to earn glitter, then that would also be like another case to not punish.
Yeah, and the more tokens we add, the more complex and also the slower these queries become. So if you add too much stuff into it, it gets to a point where it's just like it's impossible to find an accurate score. So the other simpler method would just be to say, how much are they LPing? How much are they crafting? Did they buy any gotchis? And we don't even really think about how much did they earn or how much did they sell. We wouldn't even worry about that part. We would just say, did they craft? Did they LP with their stuff? Did they buy a land parcel? Instead of like
Maybe that
looking
could
at the
be
exact percentages.
maybe that could be around the whole promotional aspect of it too, because we'll have to get the message out. So it's like, once the cartridge release happens, however it's structured, this is how you can get a cartridge through a guild, and then this is how you can get a cartridge, by LPing some of your yield, possibly spending it in the bazaar, or crafting an installation or something.
Pinsky says, what a player does with their earnings is their decision. I mean, I totally agree with that. The counterpoint to that is what kind of players we allow into the game is our decision as a community. If we allow players that are selling 100% of what they earn and like not doing any investment in the ecosystem, are those players that we want to have in the very, very early stages of this game. What they want to do is their decision. Who we want to invite to our game is our decision. Goes both ways, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree,
Yeah, I mean,
especially in an alpha.
Yeah, it's not saying we're going to be doing this forever, but we're in a pretty critical stage of the game here. We need to get a good feedback loop. And if people are coming in and selling everything and not really investing and trying to get some assets in the game, then maybe they're just not the right players that we want. We're basically spending tokens as a marketing budget to attract new people to the game, and if they're just going to sell all the tokens, it's not like that's a very high cost for player acquisition that we're paying.
yeah, the cartridge thing is really cool in the aspect that it loops the guilds in more directly with the players. And ultimately, I do think guilds should have some human element, no matter how much automation they've integrated in. There has to be a human being there at the end of the day to make sure that they're not just enabling a bunch of bots. And maybe the cartridge system is a good way to have that connection between someone who can actually monitor guild activities and actually have like players that actually want to play, and use this tool that you created as well.
Could there also be a way to get verified as like a renter, and that way not just verified as like a owner, to where everyone also has to get verified to rent?
What would that do? What do you mean? And what do you mean by verified?
I was just thinking of a way to get rid of bots. Like, I mean, basically everybody that jumps into the verse has to be verified as human somehow. I mean, I don't know how that would work, but
So we have plenty of KYC solutions that we can inject into the game. I don't think anyone would really like that. We can do fractal KYC, we could do bright ID, we could do there's like 10 different ones,
Yeah.
and they basically all involve a video chat or like a circle of people verifying you. And at the end of the day, I mean, they're kind of effective. People could still there's no like, we're not building in incentives into that. We're just saying, okay, you're a human, you can play. Again, we're not curating players with that method. So
okay, yeah, you're right.
it's-
Yeah, I agree. I was
Yeah.
just trying to think of a way to get rid of the bots, but I see you guys' struggle. You know what I mean? It's just an everyday struggle trying to do both ends of everything.
Mhm.
Yeah, and what we're talking about here isn't even the bots, it's just a certain type of scholar.
Oh, the scholars that are dumping. I was going to also ask about that. So, I mean, a lot of people are charging Ghost up front. So, in essence, a lot of people that are doing just the renters, not just scholars themselves, but a lot of just people jumping in and renting the Gotchi to go run around. And then, I mean, I think with that Ghost that they have to recoup, they're going to dump that first off. And then they'll probably dump because, you know, if they're just one person, they'll probably dump the little extra to put a couple bucks in their pocket, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Hmm.
I think a lot of people that are like, I mean, they're charging Ghost to get in. I mean, what are all these owners doing with the Ghost that they get? You know what I'm saying? They're probably reinvesting it, or they're dumping it to, you know, reinvest later. But I mean, I think a lot of owners are at least, you know, going to come back in. You know what I'm saying? If they're taking a little profits right now. But like with the scholars, you know, I mean, how do you really control that and have like a DAO? You know what I mean?
We were talking about.
Dollars. Okay, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, before the full release of our alpha, or sorry, the test version here, as we roll out, was guilds will form with these rentals. They'll form a relationship, kind of like a mentorship, with these scholars, um, and that's probably still has to come. That idea still has to come to life. I don't see a lot of coordination between guilds, or coordination. Maybe some guilds are doing it really well, like coordinating within their guild to rent out players, but I still think if we can improve that, that'll also help us curate the right players, to collect Alchemica. So yeah, I think that's definitely something. If I feel like if we can do that better, it's gonna also help keep a lot of extractive players out. And then
Yeah, I mean, before we can start doing that, we need to limit who can join the game.
yeah,
That's rule number one is we need to make it invite only, and once it's invite only, then we have a lot of options. But right now, the door is as open, pretty much as wide as it can be, because we were stress testing the system. But now it's been stress tested. We know pretty much what the limits are, and so now it's a good time to tighten the belt a little bit, I think. And I mean, every game goes through this. We're basically uh it's like a filter, almost like an interview process with players. We're trying to attract a certain type of player, and the players are looking for a certain type of game. We just need to decide what kind of players we want to join this game. It's not going to be for everyone in the world. There's no game that's for everyone. So we're using our Alchemica as like a marketing budget to attract these type of players.
I just want to point out something that Penske that we should discuss because I percent. How about Gotchi landowners that channel and dump every day? How about glitter LPers? Oh wait, the comment just moved. Sorry, glitter LPers who sell every day. Do you want them? So as a person, like I don't dump all my Alchemica, but I do sell some of it. I've upgraded 57 parcels to level 2 and moving to. But part of my strategy, because this is DeFi, because if not, then I'm just like inflating a bubble of assets that are like just abstract in a sense. So I have to take profits. So I don't know, like we have to. It's tough to use these terms like these extractor scholars because technically any intelligent asset owner would also be extracting at least to some degree because you have to cover your ass a little bit. I don't know how everybody else feels, but that's at least how I think because investment as well as a game.
I think that's everything in crypto, though. Take profits.
But the idea is that like Dan's not saying that if you extract there's going to be percentages, right? Like for you to be able to extract, you personally, you had to invest first. These people don't have to invest anything; they're just taking out 100%. Like that's the main difference here in terms of at least your example.
I disagree with that because if they pay upfront for a ghost rental, they've just injected some liquidity into my pocket as an asset owner. Because what I've been doing, and I've been encouraging people who are not Gotchi gang at all, I'm like, if you go to I'm on it right now on my live stream on adventure.io, you can view the available Gotchis to channel. You can then see which Gotchi's based, because it's all based on a level 1 altar. You could go in and rent a Gotchi right now for 1 ghost and then channel once or twice today if you have the land or access to it and get like almost 100% return from that channeling. So you don't like if you're a small asset holder, you just have a piece of land. You can do this to good effect and make some money, or you could be doing it like as a scholar work for people. But people are paying ghost up front, so it's not like they're just coming in and extracting transactional thing where they're putting up value and they're getting value from it. But that value that they put up goes to us, the asset holders. So I wouldn't say they're just 100% extracting. I don't think that's true.
Well, I mean, like I'm just looking on Adventure.io right now. You can get a 50-50 Gotchi for 6 hours for 0.1 ghost. And the only value that they're bringing is the 0.1 ghost because the 50-50 stuff, if it didn't go to them, it would go to someone else. So that's not really adding value necessarily. Like
But the 50-50 is adding value because the 50% Alchemica, just because they're not adding the extra in the beginning, they're still adding it while they collect because 50% of that Alchemica goes back to the landowner.
Yeah, but it would go to someone else. Like it's not like this value is just not going anywhere. Like it's either that person's Gotchi gets it or someone who's actually owns a Gotchi who's running around is the one getting it.
Well, that's what I was saying. And instead of it being the 1 ghost, that person is just willing to accept the fact that he's willing to risk that guy is going to run around and collect enough Alchemica to make it worth the rental. So his 50% is, a good chunk. And then that guy has to take his 50%, pay back the 0.1 ghost. And then after that, it's probably not that much money after a full day. I've ran around and collected quite a bit, and it's still not exactly for just one person doing it, on average, and then taking 50% from them. It's lucrative to somebody in a third world country, but you see what I'm saying? It's still putting intrinsic value back into the game unless the landowners themselves, the big people inside the game, are dumping behind the scenes. And that's something you guys can also look at because I noticed that a lot of the people that have thrown a lot of money in are probably extracting a good chunk of that money at this exact time when, the Alchemica is valued sometimes maybe at its highest,
The thing is though, like for 6 hours and 0.1 ghost, like 0.1 ghost is what, 15 cents? For 6 hours of gameplay, you're making many dollars. You're making many X your return.
But what I was saying is half of that goes back to the owner of, the Gotchi that you rented to go do that. So the owner of the Gotchi gets 50%. So what is he doing with his?
I understand that, but that money is that Alchemica is going to someone somewhere. So you have to account for the money that's coming out of the system because the other half of the money is staying in the system regardless. whether the
Gotchi
person
Emperor,
is
I think
extracting 100% or not.
what we're trying to say here is that we're using, if you think back to like a traditional mobile game, they will have a cost of acquisition for new players who become active players in the game. That's what that 50% is getting us here. We're basically putting out money, or giving money to players to come and try and play the game. If they like it, they are gonna, if they think it's like worth investing in from a Web3 play to earn game perspective, then they might start looking at some of the other assets we have. But our issue right now is a lot of these players, at least it's been like this for the past month or two, are bots, and they're not interested at all in that aspect of it. They're literally just interested in taking the free money and running away. So what we're trying to do here is kind of just have a better filter, which is going through the guilds that already have a lot of trusted scholars who are playing the game in the way that we would like. And no one's saying that no one can take profits or sell their Alchemica. But if you sell 100% of your Alchemica for 30 days, like, then from our perspective as the community, as the ecosystem, then that's like that's not optimal. We should be aiming for a higher percentage of investment than just 100% extraction and then leaving the game and going to the next one.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
I think tomorrow is going to be a very good DAO discussion. So I think if we want to continue that conversation, we should definitely dig into it more tomorrow. If there's anything we didn't cover like here today, or if anybody in the audience wants to come up and join us tomorrow, we're gonna be having the discussion at 2 p.m. UTC right here in the amphitheater. Right, that's where we usually do this. Yeah, and then so yeah, you can join us tomorrow. We'll talk about that. There's some other items on the agenda to cover there as well. We are
Yeah.
coming up on our 2 hours for our hangout, so I
What?
just wanted to throw it out there.
Yeah,
Can I get one more
I gotta
question
get
in,
off here,
Hefe?
guys.
Can I get one more question in? When it comes to like the open rental, so basically the bots are coming in and they're renting all these rentals on the open rental. So, I mean, is the problem not with the scholars necessarily if they're getting vetted, but the problem is with the open rental. And like Dan said, these bots are just grabbing up something that's going to give them more than they put out. As long as a bot can collect more than he puts out, it's just going to dump the extra and get out of there. Right?
Yeah, I mean, we can definitely talk about it more tomorrow. I really want to dig into it more and discuss like the nuances of all of it. I think you should definitely hang out with us tomorrow. We can go over it more.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of aspects of it that, and right now, I mean, literally at this moment, there's nothing for them to craft. So we're probably at the bottom of the moment of no crafting, because the tiles have ended. There isn't currently something that is at a price point that they would be able to access. So I would say right now is probably a moment of max pain, because there's literally nothing to get. So once we have more things that are available, especially different price points, it will be easier for the scholars to get onboarded. But we're like right now, we're like a game. It's a free to play game that has no tier for a player to get involved in. So it's a bit awkward. But we are definitely working on that to have more crafting.
Yeah, exciting, good stuff.
Okay, so I gotta get off. Yeah, excited
Mhm.
for tomorrow's chat, and hopefully we can. If you guys definitely be thinking, if you're a guild, we definitely want to hear, like what you feel are your top tier players. How many of them are there? What kind of how are they playing the game? All that info would be super helpful as we do try to work on creating like some sort of invite list. We definitely want to make sure that all the real players that are genuinely playing the game, we do want to make sure that they are covered and can continue playing the game. So that's definitely a high priority. And any info that you guys have on the guild side would be really helpful to us.
Guild
yeah,
Summit.
that-
might have to-
Later,
I was gonna
friends.
say, oh, later, Dan. I was just gonna say, Guild Summit might have to happen sooner than
Take it
later.
easy.
Yeah, good point. This would be a good time for Guild Summit. And yeah, just a final thought there too. Like a lot of the guilds are already doing excellent jobs, engaging and mentoring their player base. So the ones that are really nurturing and putting in that time and have a plan for growth, they're gonna of course be fine because there's a lot of guilds like that that are already doing great. So pretty excited. And then also just definitely one more reminder, reach out for NFT NYC rooftop party if you want to attend. Gravy is the man to talk to. You can also hit me up. But we want to make sure we get everybody that is Gotchi gang there that's possible. Yeah, can I hop off here?
Yeah, no. Yeah, nice. All right, take it easy, Jesse. See you, Dan.
Take it easy. You guys have a great day. Enjoy.
I was just gonna plug my Substack real quick. I'll be doing a hangout summary for here, what happened here today, and if you sign up for that, you can get an email. On the email, you'll be on the email list. Do that weekly.
Yeah, definitely check it out. I'm gonna be signing. If you have Gotchi, I can now operating, and I can show you how to do all this stuff. Like I can help you rent out your Gotchis. Yeah, you might be labeled an extra taking upfront ghost, but returns return. Fuck what everybody else says.
Right on. Yeah, good stuff. Is there anything else you guys have going on this week, event-wise, that you might want to shout out? All right. Well, yeah. Thank you everyone for coming out and hanging out on Saturday morning with us.
You want to talk about the adepts thing that's coming up, Hefe?
That we'll get an official date out for that soon, but we'll be having the 9 adepts screenplay episode 2 will be soon here, so we'll get the word out on that. But yeah, I don't have anything official for that just yet.
Yeah, very good.
But yeah, thank you guys for coming out, hanging out with us today. We'll catch up tomorrow, Sunday morning, DAO hangout.
Yeah, you guys have a great day.
All right, peace out, friends.
Peace.
Peace out. Ciao.